Hello and welcome. I'm Jenny Florence from the A to Z of Emotional Health online library. This video is part of the Empathy in Action series. Empathy and self-care. Self-care is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of consciousness. Self-care means that we take responsibility for our own needs, our own wellness, and we work out how much we can give, how much we need to ask for, and we approach the right people to ask for support when we need it. So where does self-care sit with empathy? Because we think about empathy as being something that we offer others. In my experience, empathy has an integral role to play in self-care, because if we cannot listen to ourselves and be responsible for our own health, our own wellness, I don't believe that we're really able to offer very much to others either. If we can't heal ourselves, we can't really heal others. In its purity, self-care is about self-responsibility. I'm going to use this jug of water as an analogy. So let's say this jug of water represents you or me, and these are our inner resources. This is what we have available to give. Now, if we continually give to others without ever listening to ourselves, without ever recognizing the source of our own needs, then sooner or later we're going to start to run out. Indeed, we may actually burn out. We may run out completely. And there may still be people in our lives who are making demands, who would like us to be giving to them. And indeed, sometimes we have people who demand a lot and they want a lot, but they don't necessarily have enough within themselves to give back to us. So let me continue in terms of self-responsibility and relationships. Healthy relationships involve a mutuality of both giving and receiving. Now, sometimes in a healthy relationship, we will be giving more to the other person, and sometimes they will be giving more to us. But a healthy relationship means that we both take responsibility for ourselves, for our own well-being, for our own self-care. And because there is an equal, mutual, appropriate level of giving and receiving, it will always balance itself out, always. It's a win-win. When one person needs more, the other is available to give, and vice versa, but we simply take responsibility. And if we're both in a depleted state, we can support one another. So those are healthy relationships. Sometimes we embark on relationships with people who have very little to give. They want us to give all the time. And to really adequately show this, I would actually need to have some sort of a glass with a hole in it, or a bucket with a hole in it. Some people are really so empty that no amount of filling them up will ever be enough. And when you run out, they will scream and shout for more and more. Those relationships are not sitting in a place of mutuality. They are not actually in a place of self-care. That's what selfishness is about. Selfishness means we take at the expense of others. We disregard the well-being of others. Relationships where all parties are involved in self-care and self-responsibility are flourishing relationships. We never actually burn out. There's always enough to go around, because there is always a mutuality of giving and of receiving. So I think it is valuable just to recognize what self-care in essence actually is. It's not just some sort of indulgence as is often presented. It isn't just lighting a candle and having a nice hot bath or pouring a glass of wine. Self-care means we take responsibility for ourselves. It is an act of consciousness. We recognize what we need at any given time. We recognize who we ask into our lives in order to achieve a mutuality in all of our relationships of healthy giving and receiving. We recognize at any given time whether we have very much to give or not very much to give. We know that it's perfectly acceptable to say no, and when we are running on full steam and we have an abundance to give, we can do so. When things happen in our lives, because life happens, we take responsibility for that, and if we need to retreat, we do so. We look after ourselves. It really means that if we embrace self-care wholeheartedly, that we approach ourselves with empathy. We listen to our needs, and we take responsibility for responding to ourselves appropriately, with respect, and all of our actions are mindful and considered. They never show disrespect to anyone else, but ultimately it means we are living on a foundation of self-respect. Respect is a key component of empathy. Thank you so much for listening. Together we really can make a difference.